Hey, it's Mark Pattison back with another episode of Finding Your Summit. Okay, this week we've got another really cool guest. His name is Joe Sena. And Joe is the founder and CEO of Spartan Race, which is a crazy series of races that they have now all over the world. And if you've never done one of these races, they're crazy. They're crazy. It's extreme adventure racing. And I did one of these types of races years ago with some friends during a Tough Mudder. And in our case, we went up to Big Bear, and it was about 12 miles, I think. We had 22 different obstacles and everything from jumping over fences to going through cold water baths to carrying logs up the mountain. And anyways, I got to know Joe a while ago, and very cool guy, very entrepreneurial. And he just has a great way about attacking life from his own perspective, how he got this thing going. And really, it's spread virally all over the world, and Russia and China and Japan and all over Europe, and a big race coming up at the end of this year in Iceland. So that would be super crazy. So anyways, as always, please go into iTunes, Finding Your Summit, rate, review, helps us out quite a bit, and we appreciate it more than anything. So with that said, stay tuned. It's a great episode. Very pumped up because I have a fitness guru. I'm not sure if that's the way that he would describe himself, but this guy is a total stud. His name is Joe Sena, and he is the CEO and founder of Spartan Race. And if anybody's ever done these crazy races, that's what they are. They're crazy. I've done a couple of them, and just, it takes a lot of training and heart and everything else. So very excited to get into this conversation about how this whole thing came about. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited that somebody wants to talk to me.
I know, man. Yeah, you've done such a great job with really, they talk about the word platform, and within platform, you've done a great job of really establishing between a book and the Spartan Race, and you've got a podcast going on and whatnot, which, by the way, I'm a subscriber. So,
all right, we got one subscriber now.
Yeah, well, you got more than that, but it's great. It's great stuff, and it seems like when you guys do your format, is there 2 or 3 of you guys in the room talking, having these conversations?
Yeah, so we have we took myself, who has a perspective on things. We've got Colonel Nye from the military, who's got a perspective on things.
Yep.
We've got Johnny Waite, who's part psychologist, just great guy, who's got his perspective, and then you got Sephra.
Yeah.
And Sephra is a character. She studied plants at Cornell. She gets into the whole earthy, crunchy side of things, and so it's I go out and interview somebody for 20 minutes, and then we come back to the farm and we talk about it. Like, what did we learn?
Yeah, it's really cool. And like I said, I follow, I listen, and it's inspiring. I have a lot of content that I listen to, and that's certainly one of them. So,
awesome.
All right. So I always start this off, where I'm at, because like you probably travel. Well, you do. You travel around a little bit more than I do, but I do travel around, and so I always like to establish where I'm at, which is Hermosa Beach, California. I'm sure you've been out here.
Right.
And it sounds like you may have landed in Long Island, New York, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Long Island. Do you travel with that microphone?
I do.
Nice.
It goes everywhere. It's just such a packable. We either do these over Skype or we do these. Sit down with 2 mics and off we go.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it just increases.
So yeah. I'm in Long Island. I'm traveling like crazy. I was in California yesterday for 3 hours. And I met with a great company, a Japanese company, Rakuten, for those that don't know it. I guess the founder started before Amazon, before Alibaba, and very similar kind of company.
Yep.
It sounds like somebody's mowing the lawn behind me. You're hearing that or no?
No, I'm good. So it's all good.
Cool. All right.
No, that's great. So I know you're a East Coast guy. You're a New York guy, and you're certainly have been down the path of these entrepreneurial pursuits. I did a little background on you, and it sounded between t-shirt business and pool cleaning and all that kind of stuff. You kind of had a bug to be your own guy and start that way. So, I mean, that certainly must have created the foundation for you to where you are today, right?
Yeah, I have we have 4 children. We're very fortunate, knock on wood, 4 healthy kids. Our oldest is 11. I'm excited to say they are outside right now playing with a rope. Don't ask me why, but the fact that it kind of feels like when we grew up, right? You just go outside and you play with stuff. That's good because normally it's an iPad or an iPhone or something. Yep. And I think all the time, how am I going to instill in them what you just described? How am I going to get them to sell T-shirts or get them to sell fireworks or do the things I did? Somebody didn't teach me that. I just did it, right?
Yep.
And so when you ask me that question, yes, I did all that. I'm no stranger to business, but I ask every single day. I say, the wheel turns in my head. How did I end up that way, and how do I pass that on? Because not so much because I need my kids, we need our kids to be entrepreneurs, but the drive and the passion and the enthusiasm. I'm relentless, and I think maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Those are good skills and attributes.
No, they're amazing, and to me, so I've got two girls, and one's 21 at USC, and the other one is going to Arizona. She's 18. Right. And, I've really found that for me, my magic in terms of, the kids that they are today is really lead by example. And, if there's too much coaching and things like that, to me, they tend to push back at times, right? And so it's just like, show them the path by my actions has been inspiring for them. And, they're great kids, couldn't ask for anything better.
I like that. I show them by your actions, and if they don't listen, then lock them in the basement, I guess.
That's always another approach. All right, so now you're doing all this kind of entrepreneurial stuff as a young kid growing up. You're kind of getting the base, and then you go off to Cornell, right? And from there, you end up on Wall Street, right?
Yeah. I was running some businesses. My parents got divorced. My mother moved my sister and I to Ithaca when they got divorced, Ithaca, New York, which is where Cornell was. I had no intention of going to college. Nobody in my family had gone to college. I didn't even know. I didn't have good grades. Wasn't something I was focused on. And a friend of mine, right when we were leaving high school, and I was going to move back to Queens, where my dad was, where the cool things going on were. My buddy says, "Hey, let's go to Cornell." He said, "How the hell would we do that? My grades are terrible. My SAT score. My dad's a professor. He'll get us in." And so we both applied. And it felt kind of cool. Threw on a suit, had my first interview, and at an Ivy League school, right? Yeah. I had some businesses and things, but this felt different, and neither of us got accepted. And so then I was really interested. Like now, I want to go to this school. So I found out from him and his dad that we could actually go to school non-matriculated and not earn credits. However, if we did well and they accepted us, we would then get those credits moved over. So I said, all right, I'll learn how to study this summer. When I go back to Queens, I'll go to St. John's. I'll take a few classes. I'll learn this thing called studying. And then I'll come back to Cornell this fall. I'll do my 3 classes they're going to let me do. And I'll prove to them that I'm worthy. And I did it, and I did really well, and I was proud of myself, and I carried around a suitcase, and I wore a suit every day, and I was like Alex P. Keaton from, what was that show called, Family Ties?
Yep, I love that show.
Yeah, and no way weren't they going to accept me. Like, I crushed it, like 2 A's and a B at an Ivy League, and they didn't accept it. Hold on, my son is walking in. Guys, be quiet, I'm on a podcast. And they didn't accept me, and so I applied again. I did it again, and then I did it again, and I did it 4 times, and I was broken by the 4th semester that maybe school wasn't for me. Certainly, this school wasn't for me, or I wasn't for them. And I finally met somebody through my mother. My mother was teaching yoga to a lady who was running a textile department at Cornell, clothing and apparel. There were 93 women in her department and no men. And she sat me down through my mother's connection before I left to quit school because I wasn't being accepted. And she said, what do you know about textiles? I said, not very much, but I've sold some T-shirts. Well, there's 93 women in our department. We're trying to get more men. I said, I love textiles. I said, I'd love to get in your department. I don't know if it was the women idea or the textiles, but she accepted me. Went to Cornell, met a guy at Cornell who managed $1 billion. Italian, took a liking to me. The last 2 years I was there, Loved the fact that I fought my way in. And when I graduated, I went back to Queens to run my construction business at that time, and he persuaded me eventually to go to Wall Street.
You know, this the name of this podcast is called Finding Your Summit. So it's really about, being hit with adversity, right? And then overcoming that and accomplishing something, successful. And, we're going to get into Spartan race, but if we stop the story right here, just that determination of you had your eye on the goal, and you kept being rejected, and you found your way in. So, it's really cool.
Yeah, you don't, you got to be careful though, right? Because finding your summit has been a question I've asked myself for, 15 years, specifically around actual mountain climbing or when do you pivot, right? Because what you and I are talking about here is just being relentless, right? Thomas Edison, 900 light bulbs till he figures out the light bulb that works. But there are times when you're supposed to pivot. And it's hard to know, right? People get divorced, they change jobs or whatever. And who are we, you and I, to say, no, you got to stick to it, put your head down. And, I guess there are times where you're supposed to make a left turn.
Yeah, no, that's a whole area where we could get really deep into, and I think based on the different time, and my summit years ago was trying to play in the NFL, and I made it, and I was relentless with that. And then after that, I came out, and like you, I threw on a suit and tie, thinking that was the right thing to do, and ultimately I ended up starting different businesses that were multi-million-dollar businesses, but that was all my focus. That's all I cared about. And then I, spun out of that, and then this whole mountain climbing thing. So, based on the time of your life, there can be multiple summits. It's just what you're going after at that particular time. So, it's all good. It's all adjusting. It's not, it's metaphorical, of course. It's not about mountains. I mean, it sounds like
Sure.
it is, but it's just really about whatever you're keen. And one of the other thing that I found for myself with that, because you bring up a really interesting point about knowing when to pull the plug, is I found that when my greatest strength is me being completely relentless, and my biggest weakness is about me being completely relentless, right?
Yeah,
and that's gotten me.
Mine too.
Yeah, so we're kind of two birds of the same cloth.
Let's go one more, if you don't mind, on that one. I was learning how to fly, and an airplane, not jumping off buildings.
Yeah.
And John F. Kennedy died the day I was supposed to go on my solo, junior, and I thought, you know what? That relentless personality I have, the relentless personality you have, is going to be a dangerous thing for me as a pilot because I'm going to go out in bad weather because I'm doing it. I'm going. And so I pulled the plug and said, flying's not for me. I'd rather have a pilot that maybe isn't so relentless, right? Ed Visters, famous U.S. mountain climber, said...
I've climbed with him, yeah.
Yeah, so I know Ed, and Ed says to me, and he puts in his book... getting up is optional, getting down is mandatory, and that's my favorite.
It's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
It's also awesome to climb with him too. It's incredible. Yeah, the guy's an animal, so it's really cool. So, all right, so you so if I read the bio right, so you're on Wall Street, you're kicking it, but you're not tracking. It's not you. You're not feeling purposeful or something.
Well, I'm making money, and so because my purpose at that point in my life, like you said, you've had different mountains to climb.
Yep.
For me, I wanted to make money, and I think I've been thinking about this recently. Just being able to say that I had a Wall Street firm, like I don't know, I felt like king of the mountain, right? To use to throw mountain in there, and so I was feeling good. I wasn't feeling great physically. I was losing that feeling of being alive because you're sitting on a trading desk, you're eating lots of garbage food, it's all about money. And then once I had some money, plus knowing I now know how to make money, that was a great accomplishment. Then it was like, now I want to do something purposeful. And it's hard when you're making that kind of money. It's hard to leave. Mm-hmm. But I pulled the plug, I sold it. And we bought a farm in Vermont, and we did 14 years on the farm. We raised four. They're not completely raised. My oldest is 11. 4 kids, a bunch of chickens, Scottish Highlander cows, and I don't know what else. chickens and things.
Yeah, no, I I can relate to that because I spend way too much time in front of a computer with my media job, and it's just part of the refreshing thing is when you can get out into nature. And in my case, it's these serious mountains around the world. But I just I feel like I'm going to petrify behind the computer screen. With all the amount of hours that you walk into these different buildings and you've got rows and rows and rows of these kids or people that are just glued to their. Nobody communicates because they're communicating with their computer out to the world, right? And it's just a whacked out thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm by the way, I'm doing it every day, all day now. I thought I got away from it when I left Wall Street, but I'm on the thing. It's an addiction, really. Yeah, it's an addiction. I got to throw the phone and the computer away at some point.
So let's talk about how you got going with
Spartan.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it. I want to talk about Death Race too because I've heard about it. A buddy asked me to be on it a couple of years ago, and so I'm not sure who came first or what came first. But so how did that originate?
So I'm on Wall Street. It's mid '90s, and I stumble upon just like you stumbled upon mountain climbing. I stumbled upon long distance adventure races.
Yeah.
So 350 miles, 500-mile event, self-supported. Kayaking, biking, hiking. Hang on one second. Guys, you got to be quiet. I'm on a podcast. Go somewhere else. Otherwise, you're going to be climbing a mountain with this guy.
Love it.
So I find this stuff, and I fall in love with it because I get off the trading desk, and just like you just described, and I feel alive.
Yep.
I'm out, right? Which ultimately leads me to pull the plug and move to a farm in Vermont because I want to feel alive every day. I want to be around nature and have trails to hike. And so I start doing all this stuff, and I'm an entrepreneur, so by the time the year 2000 comes around, I said, wait a minute, I could put on events. So from 2000 to 2010, I messed around with a bunch of different formats. Most of them were very long distance events, 300-mile plus events or 72 hours or longer. And the reality was it's not economically viable. There's just not enough crazy people that want to do that stuff.
Yep.
But I was passionate about it. I wanted to do it. And so I lost money for 10 years playing with different names and formats, Death Race. I had an expedition, British Virgin Islands, where I added sailing. I had people swimming 10 plus. I had crazy races I was doing. I lost the guy for 8 days down in the British Virgin Islands. He drifted 150 miles in a dinghy boat, ended up on a uninhabited island. We found him with the Coast Guard. So it was not a moneymaker. Those distances. And then in 2010, after just losing money and getting frustrated with the whole thing as a business, but having personal fun doing it, against my own wishes, I and my own instinct, I put together a 3-mile, 8-mile, 13-mile event called Spartan.
Yep.
3-mile was the sprint, 8-mile was the super, 13-mile was the beast. You would earn a trifecta if you completed all in a year because that would change your life. Doing one race, climbing one mountain wasn't enough to change your habits in my mind. You needed to come out of hibernation in the holidays in the winter, do a tune-up race, a 3-miler, do something, July, August, 8 miles, and then end of the year, finish with 13. And that hopefully would have changed your habits, you're eating healthy, you're training all year. That was the concept. That was 2010. By 2012, it looked like, man, this thing's really going to work. We were in 5 or 6 countries, a couple of 100,000 people. We're 35 countries now. We're 1 million participants a year, and I've got a tiger by the tail that I'm trying not to do what I was doing on Wall Street, was sit in front of a computer every day and be miserable, and here I am doing it again.
Yeah. Well, that's just part of the growth process, right? So
that's it. That's the deal.
Yeah. So why do you think, these, obviously there's people around the country, within your state, Vermont, and then, the East Coast, West Coast, it's spread across, and then you've got, it goes internationally. Where do you think the connection is for people?
I think the connection is a few things. I think one is sport, right? Just people like sport, and this is a sport, and so you go out and you get to time yourself and compare yourself to other people and compete. I think two is it's transformative, just like climbing a mountain.
Yep.
You get, Einstein said during adversity, a man is introduced to himself, man or woman, right? And so you're out there and you get to find out who you are, just like climbing a mountain. I think there's a health and wellness. You feel good and healthy, and you're changing your habits, and you're waking up earlier, and you're going to bed earlier. Yeah, I think those are the reasons why people just go hook, line, and sinker and get. I mean, they're getting tattoos by the thousands with the logo on it. And I think in this day and age of working out of cubicles, people are looking for something to align their lives with, and this is a healthy thing to align your life with.
Yeah, I did the Tough Mudder, and I couldn't believe.
What did they call it?
The Tough Mudder. Yeah, Tough Mudder. Yeah. Didn't know if my microphone came through. Yeah. So, anyways, I was blown away by just everything you just talked about and how gung ho people were, to jump over fences under barbed wire and that type of thing. I'll never do that again because my the last obstacle was running through this electrical field, and there's a 10,000 volt thing, and I got the major hit, and there's like 3 feet of water. I literally got knocked out and fell face first, which got posted on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, it was just like miserable. I'll never do it again. I'm absolutely scarred for life.
So that's the difference between us and them, is that you remember Fonzie and Happy Days and old days, right? Yeah, there was a saying called jumping the shark. Yeah. And remember they did the jump of the show because they were trying to revive the show.
Yeah.
And we're not going to electrocute people at sport. We're not going to do silly things. We're not going to do tear gas because it makes a lot of noise and it's like jumping the shark and it's good PR and good media, but it's not athletic. It's silly. And if I was going to be involved in it, had to be athletic. It had to be something we could take to the Olympics. Which is why we chose the name Spartan, by the way, because I was afraid anything with the name mud in it would be a fad, would be something you couldn't really build a lifestyle brand around it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this thing or not, but fuck, Spartan, Spartan. What a name. So.
No, it's a great name. And for those who haven't seen it, the logo too is killer. You got flames coming out, and it's cool. I mean, the colors. You spend obviously a lot of time thinking about this and visually what that would look like, and it shows really, really well.
Yeah, thanks.
It's awesome. So, what countries do you see this as expanding? Where is it? I mean, outside of the U.S.
So we're big. So last year we lived with the family in Tokyo to grow out Japan. The year before that, we lived in Southeast Asia and Singapore to grow out Southeast Asia. And so now we are all throughout Europe. We are beginning Latin America. We are all over Asia, U.S., Canada, 35 countries. And there's not a country in the world that we don't go to and sell out. So, for instance, you go to Japan and the Japanese aren't going to like this. 4 years I fought with the Japanese. It's not going to work. Opened up 2 months later, sold out. China, you got to change the product. It won't work in China. Sold out. So this is a human thing. Like, that doesn't matter what country, what culture, what the economic conditions are. They want it.
Yeah, I mean, it's... go ahead.
The real funny thing for me was no matter... They all know the word Spartan. Like, we studied little Greek history going to school, but you don't... I just assumed in China they're not talking necessarily about the Spartans, but the Spartans were like the most badass military that the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
So any modern day military in any country, like the units within those militaries in any country, typically call themselves some version of a Spartan. So it really infiltrates all countries we go to, the word and the brand.
Yeah, I think my favorite movie of all time is Gladiator. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just so awesome when Russell Crowe is down there, and they're I think they're in the Roman theater, and they're trying to kill him, and they're gladiators, right? They're Spartans, and they're out there, fighting back, and just that word makes you feel tough. It's great.
He is a soldier of Rome. Honor him. That was the wife's saying at the end when he died. Yeah, it was a great movie.
Oh yeah, inspirational movie. So
yeah.
No, I mean, it's really amazing. So how do you stay in shape? I mean, you've got all this stuff going on, and, your whole goal was to, get off your ass and get out there and start running and, be much more involved in these different adventure races that you were doing, and then you create one, and now on top of that, you've created this really integrated platform where you're branching out in these different countries, and you actually go and you live in that country. You get to experience the culture and what the people are like, and what a great life. And a lot of that,
I got to knock on wood. Great life.
Well, I think so. And what?
I agree. We got to kiss the ground. I tell my wife all the time, like there is no complaining. We cannot complain.
You have no complaints, but at the same time, I had 2, you have 4, right? And then you just have a lot of responsibilities going on. So how do you carve out the time? You look great,
Thanks. You look better.
Well, I have to look better because I'm probably older than you, and I'm climbing vertical things with a bunch of 20-year-olds, right?
There you go.
Yep.
So my routine, it's non-negotiable, right? It's every day. It's a minimum of an hour to 90 minutes. And then I get roped into going to do things, whether it's a Spartan race or a 50-mile run or something. And I typically need about 2 to 3 weeks to tune up for that thing because I keep a base level of fitness with my hour to 90 minutes a day. So what does that look like? That's a lot of body weight exercises. It's certainly burpees because I'm a burpee freak. It's got pull-ups in there. It's got a lot of mobility and flexibility exercises. So I'll do air squats, but I'll make sure I spend a couple of seconds at the bottom just loosening up. I've got all kinds of Bikram yoga moves that I incorporate into like strength moves because at the end of the day, when I look at 70-year-olds, right, they just start to lose that the ability to move.
Yep.
And I don't want to lose that. None of us should. And so I try to remain really mobile. I'll go on small runs. I don't run a lot because I think I'm just worried about, I don't, knock on wood, I never get injured. And I attribute that to I train like a boxer in some ways. I wait until there's an event coming up and then I take it a little more serious. But otherwise I've got that base level of 60 to 90 minutes a day.
Yep, I do the same thing. There's a guy that I interviewed about a month ago, another climbing icon. This guy's name is Lou Whitaker. He's 88 years old.
Wow.
So I actually was in Sun Valley and I saw him walk by, and when he walked by, it was like seeing Paul McCartney or something, right? I jump up and I'm fired up. I'm like, oh my God, and I didn't know the guy. So growing up in the state of Washington, both he and his brother Jim were absolute icons. His brother Jim was the first guy to climb Everest. And and they started a whole integrated, a little bit like you, but a climbing expedition group out of Mount Rainier. And so anyways, when I ran over to him in Sun Valley in this bar, I go up and I grab him by the arm in the back, and he spins around, and so I deliver my thing in 30 seconds. But when I grabbed his arm, this guy's 88 years old, and it was like grabbing my hardwood table. I mean, the guy, tree trunk, right? Still super active, and he's not climbing like he used to do, but at whatever level he can still do it. He's doing something to keep that body loose, and
I love it.
All the movement. If I'm an inspiration to anybody being my age, and somebody coming up, and how I've been able to keep in shape, this guy is absolutely my idol. I mean, I was like, that's who I want to be. I don't have to be, like you're talking about, this broken down car because you haven't gone in for a tune-up in 20 years.
Sure. Yeah, you and I are on the same page there, and we got to take control of that ourselves. People listening on to this podcast, we own that. There's only one body we get to live in. This is it. You don't take care of it, nobody else is going to. So I'm with you.
Yeah, Herschel Walker used to always talk about his body as being his temple, right? And I believe that too. I just very aware of what I put in my body and my rest, and working out. And a lot of times I do 2 a day still, right? So there's something early in the morning just to that get you going and get you absolutely get you in the right mindset. Yeah. And then depending on the day, if there's an opportunity to go out for a jog or something at night, it's just go out and do it. And it's just it's the fuel for life to me. I mean, it's great.
You're making me jealous.
Well, you got to come back out to Hermosa Beach, man. What part of LA were you in for 3 hours?
So I actually landed in SFO, and his company Rakuten was 35 minutes from the airport. Went in, met the CEO, and jumped back on a plane. And I hate all these flights. They're like, they dry you out, right? It's like you got to drink a liter of water just to get back what you lose on the plane.
Well, you got to get the private Spartan jet, right? And you can.
We need the Spartan jet, and no seats, you just do burpees and pedal, like, to keep the jet engine going.
Well, I'll join you if you want to, like, shuttle me around the world on some of your different adventures. So that's great.
No problem.
That's great. All right. So where do you see Spartan Race going at this point? I mean, you've grown the brand. It's doing awesome.
We're going to the Olympics. This will be an Olympic sport. So that'll be super exciting.
So how does it, can you go back on that? How do you get, I mean, you've created this category. How does that work? How do you become an Olympic sport?
Well, so I wish I could tell you that I knew how that worked, but the way I operate my life is I fire, and then I get ready, and then I aim. And so I went out, 3+ years ago, and I told the world, doing podcasts like this and getting in the media, and I said, we're going to be an Olympic sport, and I had no friggin' idea how we're going to do it. But I figured if I said it enough, I like your little climbing cup there. I figured if I said it enough, it would just happen. And so that led to people calling me. That led to having some meetings with the Olympic committees, and it really looks like this is going to happen. We've got to be in 42 countries. We've got to have a bunch of federations around the world. We've got to have buy-in from the Olympic committees. But the reality is, in some ways, we're a perfect fit. We've got this giant audience. If you look at a lot of the sports that are Olympic sports, we outshine them, 5,000 to 1 as far as number of people, spectators. It's one of the fastest growing participatory sports in the world. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, hopefully you're going to be that guy up there lighting the torch and.
Cool. Hopefully I'm not 88 like your friend.
But you'll be a stud, if they're asking you at that point, right? I mean, it's amazing to take something and grow it, and then it kind of takes on a life of its own, which is what Spartan has become, which is really cool.
This has taken on a life of its own. If I see you when I'm 88, I'm going to put like a branch in my sleeve of my jacket, so when you grab it, you're like, man, that guy's got tree trunks for arms.
Well, you got to remember, I'll probably be 101, so it's all relative. So hopefully I'm down doing push-ups and that type of thing. So as we kind of exit out of this podcast, you've done so many things, and it's really cool about drive and determination and winning and getting there and overcoming things. And I know there's probably a lot of subplots that we didn't talk about in terms of things that you had to overcome, whether it was the Japanese government or whatever. No, this isn't going to work here, and overcoming that. But, what would you tell people as parting words of advice about, young guys that are getting out there, they've got their eye on something that they want to accomplish, and, they're hit by some kind of adversity?
Well, I would say there's no way around that. So that is our Chinese teacher. I'm sorry, you're hearing that in the background.
No worries.
Wait until I tell you about the adversity I give my kids in a second. I don't think there's any way around that. I think you're going to face adversity in life. Stephen Pressfield, a famous author out there in California with you, he said he finally became more successful in life. By the way, I would tell her to be quiet, but I can't speak Chinese.
Okay. Well, you spent some time in China. Come on, that was part of the test.
I would say to young people, you've got to prepare for adversity because there's no way around it. Just like Stephen Pressfield said, he only became successful when he realized that every day you wake up, you're going to face resistance. Every day on the mountain, you're going to face issues, right? You've got to climb the second you wake up till the moment you go to bed in your tent. And unless you accept that, you're not going to be successful at whatever the endeavor is, whether you're going to be a mom, a mechanic, a monk. Doesn't matter. It's not about money. It's about being successful and achieving the goals you set out to achieve. And so you better become proficient at adversity if you want to be successful on this planet. How do you become successful? Well, in the old days, it was just living life, right? We would get on a horse and carriage and try to go across the United States. That was like serious work. Grandma died along the way. Your wife gave birth. Like one of the wooden wheels broke. That was no joke, right? You get frozen out there. Today, we've got to manufacture adversity. I got to do my burpees. We got to take some cold showers. We got to make times a little tough. Maybe park a mile from the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Maybe take the stairs instead of the elevator. So if you could get used to and get proficient and start to build something we call obstacle immunity, Well, when the proverbial, shit hits the fan, it's going to be no big deal. And it will. There's no business, no goal that you're going to go after in life that you're not going to face tough times.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, if you haven't gone through a tough time, you're lying, right? And you're lying to yourself. So,
exactly.
And that's
you're
the
not
most
trying
important.
hard enough then.
Well, you're not trying. Well, I mean, it hits everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
no, but I mean, that means you're climbing a 100-foot hill in the backyard. You're not going out of your comfort zone if you're not facing adversity.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
So
love it. All right. Well, listen, where can people find you? Because I want to make sure that they know about your podcast, which is really cool. And obviously the Spartan race, where can they sign up? Where can they join? Jump on.
Well, your community, I think what we should do, they can go to Spartan.com and learn all they want. They could shoot me an email anytime at joe@Spartan.com. But I think what we should do for your viewers is we have a race that's potentially happening December in Iceland. It's a 24-hour event. It is right up your alley.
Yeah.
I would say that we should round up a bunch of your community.
Yep.
And have you out there in Iceland, and maybe I give away some free entries or something.
I'm all in. Everybody else, but yeah, I can rally that. That's easy.
We should do that. So maybe people have to send you in a story or something and say why they deserve to go, or maybe we put together a team that you lead. Let's figure that out.
Absolutely, man. I mean, right now we're going to get off here in a minute. I'm going to jump down and do like 400 burpees, and it's great. I'm actually going up to the Raider reunion in Napa next weekend.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
nice.
So it's just great to be around a bunch of still athletically minded guys, and
sure.
I'm sure this conversation will come up because we're always talking about how do you stay fit and what are you doing and that type of thing. So
sure.
I can spread the word as well.
Let's get a bunch of Raiders out there.
We could easily do that.
That'd be great.
Seriously. I mean, it's, I mean, we could, so anyways, we'll talk about that offline, but
right.
Anyways, it's been great, a pleasure. I know I've been chasing you around for months now to try to get you on this podcast, and finally happened, and very excited about that. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast this week. We had another great guest, and it is so awesome to continually have these different people on, talk about their different adversity, how they've overcome that, and what they've done to affect change in their life to become very successful. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we love the rating and reviews that you guys do on iTunes. If you haven't done that, please go do that. It really helps us in terms of increasing our visibility within iTunes. Anyways, it's just fun to share the love and what these different stories, these different people are all about. So make sure you tune in next week. We appreciate it. And that's it. Bye.